Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Well done. 9 o'clock. Rocking it. Beautiful morning. I bet you're thinking, oh, we can get home and get on with our day. Beautiful day. Anyway, good morning. As Helen said, my name is Mike. I'm a volunteer here at the Forge, and we are diving into the second part of this series, The Games We Play, that Steve kicked off last week. And I would really, really encourage you that if you haven't seen that, or if you weren't here, then please do catch up online at forgechurch.com to see that first part. Steve showed great leadership in kicking off this series because he did the positive game in a relationship, and everybody else is going to have to do the ones which are a little bit more awkward and uncomfortable. So I really thank him for his leadership with that. But this series really goes into exploring the different games that we play in our relationships, whether that's a marriage, a long-term relationship, your parenting, your work relationships, general friendships, whatever it might be. We inevitably end up playing games in those relationships. And these games can be detrimental to the quality of those relationships. Because the problem is, when we play games in relationships, and this is what Steve touched on last week, when we play games specifically in relationships, the problem is this, that a game that requires a loser is actually a game that nobody wins. And this week, the game that we're looking at is the blame game. Now, this is a game, and maybe you don't realize this, but it comes naturally to all of us. I want to ask you to consider, have you ever pointed the finger at someone else? Or have you been on the receiving end of that pointed finger towards you? Maybe it was at work, maybe it was at home, maybe it was amongst friends, but I can almost guarantee that each of us would have probably been on both sides of a finger being pointed. And actually, as I said, this is universal, this is completely natural. Even young children play this game, and we don't even need to teach them how to play it. Just have a look at this clip.
I said, Gerard. Who did that?
Gerard did. No, Josh. Gerard.
Why did you do that, Gerard?
Josh did it. You did it.
Tell the truth, Gerard.
Josh did it. You did it. Josh. You. Josh. I didn't do it. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, he did. No, I didn't. I'm telling the truth.
Whose idea was this? Did you think this was a good idea? Look at brother's face. Who got the paint out? Brother did?
Who did it? Winston did them. On that wall. Did he? You're not lying to me, are you? Are you sure it was Winston? Who was it? It was still Winston that did these handprints on that nice new wall that I've done.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'll just let you know that Jerron spilt the salad. Josh did it. I'm telling the truth. But actually, it's not just kids who do that. Dogs play the blame game.
I will give you plenty of time to think about it. I'll ask the question. I'll walk away. I'll give you some time to agonize over it, to search your soul, to figure out what the right answer is going to be within your heart. I will give you the opportunity to do the right thing. I know it's going to take some time, but think about it. Think about doing the right thing, guys. So now I ask you, who took the cookie off the counter?
Who did this?
Snitches get stitches.
It happens, doesn't it? We all naturally do it. And actually, from the beginning of time, humans have played the blame game. You'll know Adam and Eve. You'll know the story, I'm sure. God created them to both live in the Garden of Eden. It was paradise. They had free reign of it. He just said, don't eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And of course, the problem is they did eat the fruit. And God confronts Adam And what does Adam do? Does he throw his hands up and go, yep, that was me. I'm really sorry. I'll take responsibility for that. I'm really sorry. No, he didn't. What did he do? He said, Eve told me to eat it. And he even went a step further. And he said, and actually, God, you created Eve for me. So kind of technically, it's probably your fault as well. So God just goes on. Unbelievable, isn't it? God goes and asks Eve, what does she say? The serpent told me to do it. You see, from the very first relationships, we have played the blame game. And it's totally natural to do it. And I'm sorry to say it, but the thing is, we all do it. We all do it. If something goes wrong, maybe our natural reaction is to deflect or make excuses. For example, this came really forefront to my mind. I could have, I could have had 100 examples of where I played the blame game, but this really resonated with me because tomorrow my daughter starts, she starts her GCSEs on the long round of exams. Well, I like to say, I wouldn't like to say, but I'm going to say, I did really badly in my GCSEs, like really badly. And do you know what? When I got those results, what did I do? Well, I got rubbish teachers. The school is rubbish. I didn't really like that subject. Oh, I was just starting off a relationship with Claire, who's now my wife, and maybe she was a distraction. It wasn't that. I never took school seriously, like all the way through my schooling. I didn't revise. How was I ever going to do well? But at that point, it was everybody else's fault and not mine. I just literally scraped through and I failed my English. I had to retake it. And it wasn't a very good experience, but I pointed the finger everywhere else other than me. If you're married or if you're in a long-term relationship or have been, you will have experienced that even people who choose to love each other will often blame each other. We will, won't we? We will react to criticism. We will excuse something that we have or haven't done and maybe just try and deflect, and it just happens, doesn't it? It's easier to blame others than to sometimes own our own actions. And you know what? A couple of months ago, I was traveling in the US for work. We were driving down this highway in Texas, and there is just billboard after billboard of lawyer adverts. There really are. And there was this one that kind of caught my eye, and I subsequently found a similar one online. And it says this, apologize for the picture. Just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Let's be honest. That kind of appeals a little bit to our nature, doesn't it? Like deep down inside, it does. Because we might have done it, but could it be someone else's fault? Could it be someone else that I can place the blame on? It's them, it's not me. And this has been happening for thousands of years. As I said, Adam and Eve. There is a writer in the Bible called Paul. We talk about him a lot because he wrote most of what we now know as the New Testament part of the Bible. He wasn't always a follower of Jesus, but then became a very prolific follower of Jesus. And he wrote to various individuals and church communities, encouraging them, correcting them, guiding them on how to live. And he's writing to a group of people in Rome, and he says this: so you can see there are no excuses for any of us. If your eyes shift their focus from yourselves to others to judge how they are doing, you have already condemned yourselves. You don't realize that you are pointing your fingers at others for the exact things that you do as well. And we do. We point our fingers everywhere else without sometimes seeing that we do the exact same things. Or we deflect the fact that we might have done it, but we want to point the finger elsewhere. And we get frustrated when people do that to us. And the real problem with playing the blame game is that when you play the blame game, you give up the power to change, to improve. And this shows up in two distinct areas. Firstly, the blame game stops us improving ourselves. Every time we blame, every time we point the finger elsewhere, we stay the same. We say things like, it's them, it's not me, it's him, it's her, it's my boss. And when we do that, we don't learn from it. We may adopt a pattern of being like a victim mentality, or maybe we get stuck with pride. We can't possibly admit that this was my fault. And this stunts our growth. And this actually happened to me. I mentioned about my GCSEs because also I didn't learn from that experience. Because in my A-levels, guess what? I did exactly the same. I did equally as badly in my A-levels, scraped through. I ended up only doing 2 A-levels as well. One of those was PE. And I did pretty much equally as badly because I hadn't learned from my previous experience because I'd been too busy pointing my finger elsewhere and not taking the responsibility myself. And of course, the reality is that we will make mistakes. We will. But if we don't look to ourselves to take responsibility, if we continually blame others, we will just stay the same. We're stuck and we don't improve as a person. And the second problem, the way this shows up, is that the blame game stops us improving our relationships. So it keeps us improving ourselves and our contribution to that, but it also keeps us improving our relationships. You see, all relationships will have conflict. They will, and tension. You know, a healthy relationship is not defined by the absence of conflict. It's actually how you resolve it, how you handle those conflicts and tensions that keeps it healthy. And when you play the blame game, the problem is it keeps us stuck in the same place. But actually it has an added impact in our relationships in that they actually start to deteriorate. The blame game steadily erodes our relationships, or sometimes very quickly destroys our relationships. And Brené Brown, a famous author and speaker, she says this about blame. Blame is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. Something's gone wrong. It's someone's fault. And with fault comes discomfort, doesn't it? So we try and push that discomfort elsewhere. And the problem is of course, in relationships, this doesn't bring relationships closer together. It doesn't close gaps in relationships. It widens the gap and brings separation and therefore starts to destroy our relationships in whichever setting you might find yourself, whether that is a romantic relationship, a marriage, or at work, or with your parents, or with family members. So how do we stop playing the blame game? Well, as I've alluded to, at the heart of the blame game is an absence of taking responsibility. And to help our thinking on how to avoid playing this game and instead take responsibility, I want to focus on just one verse. This was a verse, this was written by the same Paul I was talking about before. He's writing to another church community, this time in Colossae, which is in kind of modern day Turkey. And please don't dismiss that this is just one verse. It's going to sound really simple to say, but really difficult to apply. And that's what we're all here to do, isn't it? We're all here not to just learn a bit or understand, and remember something from the Bible. It's one verse. It's actually, we wouldn't need to go out there and apply this stuff. And this is going to be really difficult to apply. But it's something that we really do need to try and live out in our relationships. So here we go. I'm going to break it down, even if it's just one verse, into a few chunks. And it starts off with this. Make allowance for each other's faults. We live in a world of others, don't we? We are literally surrounded by other people. We can't avoid other people, whether that's at home, whether that's at work, whether that's just going about our daily life, going shopping. We have to interact with other people. And what is an absolute certainty is that other people will annoy us. They will, won't they? They will frustrate you and annoy you. In fact, people close to you may not just annoy you, they might hurt you. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and that's the reality, and we should kind of expect it. And the other thing we need to realize is that we will do that to other people. We will annoy other people. We will frustrate other people. Maybe we will hurt other people. And, as the verse from Romans a minute ago stated, we will do the same things to others that they do to us. And so we need to make allowance for that, because I'm sure we would like to receive that allowance back. John Gottman, who is a prominent researcher, author, professor and speaker in relationships, in the field of relationships, he wrote a book called The 7 Principles of Making Marriages Last. And what he discovered was that blame over a period of time was a key determining factor to relationship breakdown, and has subsequently actually extended that to other types of relationships. And what they found in their research was that, as I said before, a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship doesn't mean the absence of conflict. But what they recognized was that every relationship will have problems and tensions. And the thing that kind of set apart the healthy marriages was that it seemed like people understood the difference between problems and tensions. And what they found was, in our conflicts in those types of relationships, at a maximum, 25% of those conflicts they classified as problems. And problems are the things that absolutely are things that need to be dealt with. They're significant hurts, they're things that might happen, they're things that absolutely need to be talked about, need to be addressed, need to maybe have forgiveness sought and given. They need to be resolved and moved on. And obviously, hopefully, that's moved on in a sense of restoring and maintaining, sustaining that relationship. But sometimes those significant things mean that we have to move on from that relationship. But those are the problems, and that's the more minimal side of our conflicts. The vast majority of our conflicts come from what they classified as tensions. So 75% plus of our conflicts come from tensions. And marriages that last, and it's the same subsequently they found in other relationships, those that last, those that are healthy, they grow an understanding of these tensions and give allowance for them. Instead of trying to change that person, they learn to live with those tensions. And these, as I said, are not the significant hurts, the significant events that are actually the problems. These are the things which are like differences in personality or differences in preferences. And again, like the research was talking about marriage and then subsequently extended to other relationships, but you can apply this in whichever setting your relationships are based on. It could be the kind of differences in a relationship where one person likes to be early or prepared and the other person doesn't mind being fashionably late or everything's last minute. It could be that some people are tidy and others are not so tidy. I sit next to someone at work for many years who just was not tidy whatsoever and would create a barrier in between that they're a bit stay over that bit. But it is. And these are the types of tensions that you have to learn to live with. You have to learn to accept and give allowance to these tensions and not turn them into problems through things like the blame game. Because again, people will annoy you, they at times will hurt you, and you will do the same thing to others. So how do we stop playing the blame game through this thought? Well, we can do this. We own your own. It's so easy to look elsewhere. It's so natural to point the finger, but you need to own your own. Understand that you will annoy other people by what you do and say, so own your own when you do that and make allowance for others when they do that to you. Have you noticed in an argument that grows, the emotion starts to rise, it escalates, it becomes tense? If one person would just stop and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm contributing to this escalating and it's not doing any good. I'm sorry, I own it, I apologize. What happens to the tension? It dissipates. I've learned this in my own marriage. I still don't get it perfectly right. Even as recent as Friday, I didn't get it right. But over the years, Claire and I have got to understand how to accept and acknowledge our little, how do we phrase it, like little foibles. The things that create the tensions. And there are times when it absolutely does escalate, absolutely. And we just have to go, do you know what? I'm sorry. And it helps. And this isn't just about marriage. This can be at work. This can be in a parent-child relationship. It can be with some of your friends. We have to make allowance for each other. So own your own part. Choose to own it, choose to go first and bring that tension down. And the verse continues. It goes into the second part. It says this: make allowance for each other's faults and forgive some of the people that you like that might have offended you by mistake. It doesn't say that, does it? It says, what does it say? Forgive anyone who offends you. Maybe our reaction to that is, really? Anyone? But you don't know what they did. You don't know what they said. You don't know how they annoy me with what they do. But it says, forgive anyone. And it's really hard, isn't it? It's difficult to apply in reality, but we need to do it. You see, forgiveness is one of the markers of a healthy relationship. Whether marriage, parent-child, work, whatever it is, in all instances in those situations, probably regularly, large amounts of forgiveness need to be sought and then generously given. But it's hard, isn't it? And our response when people come to us and say, like, I blew it, I'm sorry, I did do it, I didn't do it, would you forgive me? Our response needs to be, I forgive you. And it's hard. So how do we stop playing this blame game? Number 2, we forgive each other. This anger and bitterness towards each other for what they did or they didn't do, it only holds you back and serves to destroy your relationships. You see, forgiveness can set you free. It can set the other person free, and it can set that relationship free to move forwards in whichever direction that looks like. As I said, ideally that means sustaining, restoring, whatever it is, but maybe that's moving forward in a different way, but not holding on to that. Again, if we're stuck in the blame game in relationships, we're not just stuck, they deteriorate over time. And if that's about niggly little tensions, then they will just continue to deteriorate. Now, so we need to own our own, and we need to forgive each other. And as this verse goes on, in this last part of the verse, it's almost like Paul is waiting for the pushback. And he concludes this verse with one little sentence, because he knows that our natural reaction to being told to forgive anyone is, but you don't understand. Now, at this point, I'd like to say, if you're here and you wouldn't call yourself a Christian, you're here, you're not really sure what or who you believe in. Firstly, can I say how welcome you are. We are so pleased that you've chosen to be with us. That is incredible. We love that you're here. And secondly, the first 2 parts that I've covered on how to stop playing the blame game are absolutely relevant and applicable to you, regardless of what you believe. But this third part, you could take a free pass based on what you believe. But if you are here or watching online and you would consider yourself a follower of Jesus, a Christian, then this is actually something that you are called to do. The verse concludes like this. It says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. That feels a bit uncomfortable, doesn't it? Because there go all of our excuses to continue playing the blame game. Because if there is anyone who has the right to play that blame game, it's God. He's perfect. We are imperfect. We mess up and we continue to mess up. And people over thousands of years have messed up and continued to mess up. And time and again, he could have just been done with us. But he chose and chooses to forgive us. In fact, he went a step further. He went first. He didn't play the blame game. He took responsibility. You see, he gave his son Jesus. He sent Jesus to us to take away our sin on the cross. We've celebrated Easter a few weeks ago. He took the ultimate responsibility by dying on the cross for our sin. But the thing is, it didn't stop there. He took our sin upon that cross, and then Jesus' resurrected life enabled us to have new life, an eternal life. He took our sin, and then he did this. He let it go. How do we stop playing the blame game? Let it go. We need to do the same. Let it go. And I promise I won't sing the Frozen theme tune. The things people do to us, we need to do what Christ did for us. We need to take it on board. We need to forgive. And we need to let it go. Because if there is one thing that should mark the life of a follower of Jesus and stand out from everybody else, it is our choice to forgive. Because we should understand how undeserved we are for God's grace and forgiveness. And therefore, we need to extend that forgiveness to others. And doing that is not ignoring what has happened if something has happened. It's modeling the grace that has been given to us. If you want to improve your relationships, you need to choose to take responsibility and intentionally not play the blame game. And these 3 steps of own your own, forgive each other, and let it go can help with that. So as I come to a close, what's not right in your world in terms of relationships? Perhaps as you're sitting here, you're thinking about various relationships. Perhaps that is your marriage. Perhaps it is another type of relationship. Perhaps it's at work where there are these constant tensions that are steadily eroding the quality of that relationship. And at the heart of that is the blame game. Because if you want to see breakthrough in your relationship, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your relationship with your parents or another family member, if it's at work or if it's in friendships, maybe it's here at church, we need to stop playing the blame game, because this is true for each of us. I will see breakthrough when I stop blaming you. If you need a breakthrough in your relationships, you need to go first. And in order to do that, you're going to need to take a step. And you're going to need to do this. You're going to need to embrace your ability to take responsibility. Now, I'm not naive enough to know that one verse and a few steps fixes this. But there is one step that can help you fix it. And that is to take a step and turn towards God in these situations. You see, Jesus stepped into our mess and took responsibility on our behalf. And in turning to step towards him, you will be stronger than the things that you face. Paul, he wrote another letter to another church community. And he said this, and it's a very popular verse: "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." How do you own your own? How do you forgive each other? How do you let it go? You turn to God and you ask him for the strength to do those things, and then you take the brave move to do it. This may sound really easy, but it is really hard. As I said, this is about the tensions in our relationships where we play the blame game. It's a default. So this morning, I don't know what this looks like for you, but what I would suggest is, in whichever relationship is running through your mind about this blame game, maybe you need to turn to God in prayer. We'll give an opportunity for that in a second. But maybe as you move from here, you need to commit that to prayer in the next few days and weeks. Maybe you need to share that with someone else this morning. Let them help you. Maybe you need prayer with them, for them, or from them. Perhaps today is the day that you need to go first in taking responsibility and not playing the blame game. I want to give a bit of space to pray into those situations. I'd encourage you to, maybe there's something that's running through your mind. Maybe there are several relationships, maybe several situations that are running through. Maybe it's Maybe it's about yourself, I don't know. Maybe you've been blaming yourself for something. I don't know. But I'd encourage you to close your eyes. And you don't have to do this. This isn't a magic trick or anything else, but just open your body up. Lay out your hands in front of you if you feel comfortable. Open your heart. And in this silence, just think about that think about turning towards God in this situation. And I'm going to pray, and the band are going to lead us in a song. Father, I don't know what is going through the heads of the people in the room and the people watching online. But I know even in my head there are examples when I've hit this default button to point the finger elsewhere, to blame others. And sometimes that's just seemingly harmless, but maybe over time that's not so harmless. And so I pray that as we think about those relationships, as we think about those instances, Lord, would we feel your presence in this moment? Lord, we look to you. You bless us, Lord, with the example of love, of mercy, of kindness, of self-control, of peace, of forgiveness, of love. And may we model those things in our relationships. And I especially pray for people who are really struggling with this today. Would you intercede? Would you step into that messy situation? And maybe for some people here, this isn't just about niggly little tensions. Maybe there's some significant hurts that have gone on. And it's hard not to play the blame game. Maybe it is someone else's fault. But may we be able to move forward with you beside us, protecting us, giving us the strength to deal with that in the best possible way. Lord, we thank you for your example. We thank you for your gift of Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Be with us today.